So, all the GI tube, we consider it as a tube or tube like structure. This particular tube is a multi-layer tube, and this particular multi-layer tube have got features which is structurally they are similar, and it has a little bit difference and variations in different parts of the GI tube. That is what we have agreed to. So, to have a quick recap on the layers of this particular tube, how many layers this particular GI tube has? Okay, mucous layer, then submucous layer, muscle layer, then serous layer outside. So, inside out these are the layer. If you are just like considering it like from other side way, there is no problem. So, you follow the sequel of the structures or sequel of the layers which are present in a proper manner or proper fashion. Now, if you just like take this particular most innermost layer, that we call them as the mucous layer. Now, this mucous layer have got subdivisions, right? So, which is having 3 layers or 3 sub layers. We call them as epithelium, that means it is consisting of the cells. So, whatever the kind, the nature of the cell is, that is different or the same which is present to it. Now, under to this particular lamina propria, we have this particular epithelium of cells is resting on some platform, we call them as lamina propria or basement membrane, and then we have this particular all these things resting on a small thin layer muscles, we call them as muscularis mucosa. Then after to that we have this particular submucosa, then muscle layer varies from longitudinal or circular layer, and most outside is a fibrous covering or coating which is holding this thing all. So, which is having this all entities there. Now, as you are going to study this particular stomach, it also have got same old architecture that we have talked about. So, it has all the 4 layers or all the sub layers. Only variations which this particular layer is having some kind of differences over here. Now, this particular stomach, you have to understand, it is an organ which is holding the food material and helping to digest. Now, as it is holding this food material and it is helping to digest, it is producing some kind of secretions. Now, this particular secretions has to come from the glands, right? If you have some kind of fluid coming in, that has to come from the glands, right? So, this particular stomach has got some glands in it to produce the secretions which is helping to break the food particles. Whatever the food particles we are having, it is going to break it down. Now, in between these particular layers that we have just talked about, the glands has to be placed in some of these layers. Either it has to be in the epithelium layer or a mucosal layer or submucosal layer likewise, because muscle layer does not have anything to accommodate other than muscle. So, it is all muscles which are present and which is where by the nerves, which is the plexus, autonomic nervous system or enteric nervous system, which is making the peristalsis or anti-peristalsis depending on it. So, either in the mucous layer or submucous layer, we have to fit some glands in this particular organs, whatever the things are required to have glands. In this particular stomach, we have this particular glands which are producing the secretions, they are present in it in this particular lamina propria or epithelium layer. So, this epithelium layer holding some kind of glands, and as it is present in the stomach, the other name of the stomach is gastric. These glands we call them as gastric glands, and this particular gastric glands through some opening clears the secretion into the stomach or in the cavity of the stomach. So, the opening of this particular glands we call them as pits, P-I-T-S, pits. So, this particular opening we call them as pits, and as it is gastric gland we call them as gastric pits, and this particular gastric glands producing the secretions. Now, what kind of nature of the secretions it would be? It is producing some kind of hormones, it is going to produce some kind of acid substances which is going to break down food particles, it is going to break down some kind of like mucous element which is neutralizing this particular acid as well. So, that to cover up all these things, different kinds of glands are there, and this different kind of gland is producing some secretions that is going to come likewise. Clear? So, to summarize these things, we are going to experience some of the layers that is present in the stomach, which is having some kind of parts. If you just grossly look at this particular stomach, this is a stomach how it is placed. When you are going to do the dissections, you will see that likewise this particular organ is placed. So, stomach has got few parts. This part we call them as esophagus, and which is emptying into this stomach cavity or the stomach itself. The stomach can be divided into few parts. Upper part we call them as fundus stomach. Then we have this particular part of these things we call them as the pylorus or pylorus part of the stomach, then which the body part of the stomach, and then we are ending to reaching to this part, we call them as pyloric region, which has got like a pylorus or pyloric canal which is present to it. Now this region we have an opening, we call them as cardiac opening, which is present in this region, and this region we have an opening, we call them as pyloric opening. So accordingly we placed it. So food particle comes through this particular opening, runs here, it stays for some time and then empties through this particular canal and goes to the small intestine, then large intestine, then to the anal canal and defecated out. So this is how these particular things are there. So if to talking about the parts of the stomach, this stomach have got fundus and then body, and this body have got like a cardiac regions and the body together, and then pylorus region. So more or less the architecture of this particular stomach in the fundus and this particular body and this pylorus region is more or less is the same. They are having similar kind of structures. They are all 4 layers that we have talked about. They have likewise the same architecture like gastric glands which are present in it. Clear? So this is what we have to emphasize. Now there are little variations are there between this particular stomach histology in this particular fundus region with this particular body region and pyloric region. We are just not going to make this particular element complex to memorize each and sub parts of it. We generalize this particular histoanatomy of the stomach and remember and memorize it. With little variations is there, we can accept or accommodate that kind of variations is there, but the basic architecture of the stomach is not going to be different than that of the fundus part and this particular body part or the pyloric part. So this particular thing what we are going to talk about. So this is a schematic picture that you are seeing here. This is not a real picture. This is the lumen of the stomach that is present, and then we have the after the lumen we have this epithelium layer. This epithelium layer consisting of this particular mucus layer, right. So this particular mucus layer which is lying over here mucus, then we have this under this this epithelium layer, mucous layer consisting of this particular epithelium cells which is present in this particular region. Then we have this particular lamina propria. Now this lamina propria layer which is elongated in this particular region and holding these glands that we are talking about is gastric glands. Now this gastric gland ends into this particular region over here. It has this particular glands which is, you can see, the simple tubular kind of gland. That means it is a single canal which is there and it may be branched like this. So branch simple tubular which is there, which is uncomplicated. Two branches are there like this, one branch, two branch, and they are uniting to making a single branch, and this is exiting out. This is how this particular gland looks like, which is starting from this particular lamina propria layer and ending onto this layer which is known as Muscularis mucosae, and then we have the submucous layer. This is how this particular element is there. Now this opening of this particular gland which is opening in here, we call them as gastric pits. So these are pits are there, these cross sections you are seeing here from sideways, it should be looking like this, right. And each of these particular glands which you are seeing here, gastric glands, have got some features. That's what we have to understand, that's what we have to memorize. So this particular mucous layer having this particular epithelium cells which is present in here. Then we have the lamina propria which is having this particular gastric glands present in it, and then we have this muscularis mucosae. Then we have the submucosa, and then we have the muscle layer, then we submucosa. So this is what you are seeing here is a magnified view of this mucous layer which is having 3 things, right. Now before we move any further, you summarize the thing like how many layers stomach has. Write down layers of the stomach. What are the, how many layers it has histologically? তো খাতা বই নেই বউ নিয়ে চলে আয় তাহলে, হ্যাঁ নিয়ে চলে আসো, এদিকে চলে ফাঁকা আছে। So write it down like layers of the stomach. How many layers it has? How many layers it has? 4 layers. What are the 4 layers? Right. So you write it down, 4 layers. So 4 layers are there. So out of this particular 4 layers which is present in the stomach, which layer is having special character? Mucous layer. Now mucous layer is having special character. Now what are the sub layers mucus has? Now write down. Mucosa have got how many sub layers? 3. What are these? Epithelium, lamina propria and muscularis externa. Great. So, write it down. Out of these 3 sublayers of this mucosa, which one is important or kind of different or kind of like a identifying features having in the stomach? Lamina propria. Lamina propria has a special feature. Where lamina propria is placed? Under the epithelium cells and above the muscularis mucus. Great. So, you know the locations. Now, what do you expect to see in the lamina propria in a stomach specimen? Gastric glands. Okay, great. So, gastric glands is present in that lamina propria layer. How do the these glands are going to look if you are going to see that? Tubular. So, it is, if you are making a section like this, it is going to be look like tubular, and this particular tubular thing may be single long strand tube or maybe at the end it is branched. So, branched or unbranched single simple tubular glands you are going to see, right. Now, what this particular gastric glands is going to do? Secretes. What is supposed to come out of the secretions? Hormones, acids, enzymes and neutralizing factor mucus, right. Yes, histochemical substances, right. Clear? So, this is what we are going to expect. Submucosa is having submucosal glands may be there, submucosal blood vessels may be there, but not that significant. That means just like likewise everything is similar, not like very striking or very different than vessels, lymph nodes, whatever the thing submucosa holds, it nerves, etc., it is there. Muscle layers out here.
3 muscle layers.
Muscle layers, usually we see that there are 2 muscle layers, outer longitudinal, inner circular. In case of the stomach, there is an oblique fiber existing. So, some of the fibers may be obliquely placed, say may have a 3 layer, or if you say that is 2 layer, no problem, right. This does not have much of significance histologically. If you say that this is having same 2 layers or if having one extra layer, oblique layer. Only functionally this oblique layer is existing in some part of the stomach, not all of this stomach. But anyways, if you remember 2 or 3 layers, this muscle layer has, then fine. Then outermost layer, what is the most outermost layer? Serous layer. Serous layer is same over here, is fibrous covering or coating. Clear? So, this is what we are going to learn or we already have learned. So, this particular, say take this example of the cardiac region or any sections over there, it having a mucosa. Then mucosa consisting of what we know that cells, lamina propria and muscularis mucosae. The muscularis, this lamina propria is significant in this realm because it holds this particular glands in it. Now, coming to the cells which epithelium belongs, the cells over here is a single layer or multi-layer. This should be have a multi-layer cells which is present and it is having columnar type of cells. So, it may have a single or multiple layer which is simple columnar kind of epithelium which is there. That means the cells looks like column. Beforehand in the esophagus, what kind of cell it was? Flat cells, stratified cells, and that was there in the multi-layers which is present in it. So, these are the things which you have to know. The cells of this nature of the cells is columnar cells. Then we have this lamina propria holding a glands which is secreting some substances. And then we have this particular muscularis mucosa. So, this is all about mucosa. Then we have the submucosa, the same blood vessel, nerve fibers and etc. there. Muscularis externa which is present or muscularis layer which is present in here, which is having this particular 2 or 3 layers, longitudinal, middle or circular layers, and oblique layer some of this particular layer may have, and serosa which is having outermost layer. So, to summarize it, this is having mucosa and some other sub layers. And mucosa have got these 3 elements, and out of here this lamina propria is the hallmark to identify, which holds some glands which is going to produce some secretions, and different parts of the stomach have got different lamina propria of different kinds of glands are there. Some of them secreting only kind of like a mucus, some of them secreting hormone, enzymes, mucus, etc. So, this is how the schematically it should be looking like. So, more you go to this particular mid portions of the stomach or pyloric end of the stomach, this particular gastric gland length varies or becomes different or becomes more complex like that. And in the fundus region, it is having a plain slim plain simple thing which is present in this region, right. So, this is how it should be looking like in this region, mucosa having same thing, and this particular gastric glands which is present in here, muscularis mucosae, submucosa same are there. This is how it should be looking like, the glands which is present over here. These are the mucosal layer which you seeing here. This is the epithelium which is present in here, column cells which is there, and then we have this particular glands which is dipping down within this lamina propria. These are the circular glands which you are seeing here because of the cross sections. They are longitudinally seeing that simple tubular type of gland which may be branched over there. Now, if you reach to this particular region over here, this is a limiting region which is known as this muscularis mucosae. That means from here to here is the mucous layer, clear. And then after this muscularis mucosae which is limiting in here, then we have this submucous layer, then we have the muscle layer, then we have this outer layer. So, whenever you are going to see this histologically, we have to segregate out first thing first, lumen side, then mucosa, then how long this mucosa is there. If you identify this particular mucosa, epithelium, and this particular lamina propria and muscularis mucosae, then you can see the lower limit of this mucosa or mucosal layer. Then you have submucosa and muscle layer. Between this muscularis mucosae and this particular muscle layer, we have this submucous layer. It should be fitted with whatever the features it is. Clear? So, this is what you have to do. Now, talking about this particular glands which are present within this particular, or features of this particular gastric glands and their functions. So, this particular gastric glands, as you are seeing here, they are looking like this tubular element, right. Now, this particular tubular element also inner side to it is lined by the same columnar kind of epithelium. So, it is lined by the same element which is the cells which is lining it. In between them, we have this particular special element which is going to produce some secretions. So, if you just like see this particular gland over to here, so upper part, lower, middle part and lower part, it can be divided off. Three parts we can see that. So, upper part, it is holding this particular element, we call them as mucus secreting cells or glands are there. So, upper part over here, we see these mucous elements are there. And then we have this particular cells, some of the cells, we call them as stem cells which are there. And then we have the cells which is producing this particular B12 or Cassell's intrinsic factors. So, then we have this particular lower third or lower part of the cells which is producing the hormones or producing some gastrins kind of element which is neurosubstance, which is hormonal elements. And then we have the cells which is present in the bottom side which is producing this pepsinogen which is going to break down this particular proteins into smaller fractions, pepsin to pepsinogen. So, these are the elements, that is what we are going to see if you are going to see that different kind of glands, different kind of glandular cells this particular stomach gastric gland has. So, this particular fundic gastric glands, they are going to have this kind of things which is present in it. So, this tubular gland have got mucous cells which is present in this particular region, and as well as some of the sheep cells, parietal cells and neuroendocrine cells, they have the different functions which is coming to it. So, first thing first, it is on the top part we have this particular glands which is fitted with the cells, we can call them as mucus secreting cell. They are present in the neck region. So, these mucus secreting neck cells which are present in this particular uppermost part of this gland. Then we have this particular cells which is present, we call them as parietal cells. This parietal cells produces this particular substance, hydrochloric acid and Cassell's intrinsic factors. So, this particular hydrochloric acid splits down this particular pepsinogen to make this particular thing pepsin, so that this particular element can break down this particular protein molecules, and intrinsic factors which is important for the absorption of vitamin B12. So, these are the two elements is produced by these parietal cells, and where the parietal cells is present, upper part of the gland. Then we have this another cell, we call another cells which we call them as neuroendocrine cells. These are the cells present in the lower part of this particular gastric glands. So, if you go down lower part, you are going to see this particular gastric glands fitted with these neuroendocrine cells. What they are producing? They are producing gastrin, serotonin, histamine directly. So, they are going to modulate or control the secretions of this particular gastric or stomach secretions. We have this particular stem cells which is present in the high up inner position, higher up in this region. So, this stem cells is present like close to this particular mucus secreting regions or this particular parietal cell region. and this particular neuroendocrine cells, and as well as this particular chief cells also known as Zymogen cells, which are going to produce this pepsinogen. They are produced at the or present at the basal portions or lower third portions of this particular gland. So, these are the different types of cells which are present. If you just like run through the length of it. So, if you see that this is a gastric pit. So, this particular region is upper part, and then we have the middle part, then we have the bottom part. So, we can divide it upper third, middle third, lower third, and accordingly place these particular cells which are present. To summarize these things, these are the whole thing that is present in this particular gland, which is or different types of cells which are present in the gastric or gastric pits or gastric glands. So, we have these particular 5 different types of cells are there. Mucous secreting cells which is present in it, then parietal cells, and then we have this particular stem cells. So, this one 3 and this one 5. So, 1, 3, 5 is present on the upper domain. This Zymogen cells and this particular neuroendocrine cell is present at the bottom side, right. So, 2 and 4 is present at the lower part of the gland, and 1, 3 and 5 they are present at the higher part of this particular gland. So, this entire thing is a gastric gland. Where the gastric gland is present? Lamina propria, that means in a mucous membrane or mucous layer. Then this particular glands hold some different kinds of cells. 5 different types of cells are there within this, and they are doing and producing different functions. Upper part there are 2 types of cells, one is known as this particular mucous secreting gland cells are there. Then we have this particular stem cells which is going to replace this particular element. So, if it is destroyed, it is going to be produced back. So, these are stem cells there. Along with that, HCl and intrinsic factor secreting cells which is known as, they are present on the higher domain. Now, coming to the lower part, neuroendocrine cells, that means producing hormones, gastrin, secretin, serotonin they are producing, and as well as that we have this particular pepsinogen secreting substances or cells, they are present at the bottom side. So, we have to memorize this particular chart very well about it. This is a short note that comes with the examination, like draw a schematic picture of the stomach and describe about the morphology or of a gastric gland. And morphology of the gastric gland, that means they want to know about this particular cells which are present in the gastric glands and what they are doing. So, 1 or 3 words about it. So, these particular identifying features, if you fail to remember, this does not bother here. So, what kind of cells, this is dark cells or dark acidophilic cells, silver staining cells, it does not matter. You have to know these particular cells, where they are present in this particular locations of these things, according to the locations, what actually they are producing over this particular period, how they are doing these functions. So, you have to remember and memorize this particular gastric pits or gastric glands, and what are the different 5 types of cells that are present in it, and this is what you have to prepare. This is your exam short note, 4-mark short note about this. Histology of the stomach, schematic 1 and 3 on gastric gland. So, when you go home or after the class, you just write it, the answer, whatever things we have taught here, and a schematic picture as well. Prepare that for examination. Now, we have the slides which are placed in this 4 of the regions over there. Try to go through this, follow the protocol of lumen, mucosa, submucosa, muscle, serosa. Mucosa, find the topmost layer, cells, what kind of cells you are going to see, then lamina propria, gastric gland present or not, it is visible or not, then lower limit of this particular mucosa is the muscularis mucosae, then we have this submucosa, then we have the muscle layer. Here, and once you are done, take a good picture, then we can just discuss about it. 2 of the pictures are attached already, alright. 2 of the slides or 2 of the places on the rear microscopes, we have taken a picture and placed it there. So, that helps you to identify the factors.